This is a Bronco. These don't belong here. I'll show you where they belong. Well, hello everyone. This video has been a long time coming. My Bronco build is finally done. I was planning originally to show some of the process, but today you're just gonna get to see the final result. I have done some interior mods, but not that many, so we're gonna do the whole walk around as one video, the exterior, the interior. What I just wanna do first is mention the items that you can't really see. So those are mostly power mods. This has the Ford Performance tune on it, just the one for the 2.7. It's got some nice features to it. It fixed the transmission with the 37s because the 10-speed was a little bit lost. It just increases throttle response. It increases horsepower and torque. And for me, it disabled the auto start stop, which I really appreciate because that feature bugs me. As well as the tune, I did a CVF or CV fabrication intercooler. So that's hidden behind here. You can't really see it. And then I also did their charge pipes. Between the two of those, there's quite a power increase. I did them one at a time so that I could feel the difference. So I did the intercooler first, really noticed that on hot days, there was less heat soak. And then I did the charge pipes. I have a little bit more lag now, but once the power hits, it's definitely more than it was before. So the nice thing doing every power mod individually is I was able to tell what they felt like. And then as for gears, this is a Sasquatch package. Don't quote me, I believe it's 471 gears that they come with. So the nice thing is even with the 37s, with this much power, it turns it beautifully. And sitting on the highway, I'm at like around 2000 RPM. So it idles down very nicely. The one last thing I added was a throttle grenade throttle controller. And you might say, well, with the tune, did you really feel like you needed it? It's just turned up just a little bit. It gets rid of the lag. So all I have to wait for is the turbo lag and not any like throttle lag as well. So I did add that. That one's very optional, but it feels really good how it's set up right now. So we will start with all of the stuff that you can see now. So what I did was just stylistically change the grill letters. This is a Wild Track, which unfortunately they discontinued that package, and it had my favorite grill. Like this gloss black one is my favorite. So I did colored match letters from UPR is the company. You basically pull off the grill, pop off the factory letters, and then these ones just slip in. The bumper, this is probably one of my most asked questions. What bumper is this? This is from Baja Forged. If I remember correctly, they're down in Vegas. I think at least they're in Nevada. So got this shipped up here. I think it's the best looking bumper you can possibly get that takes a winch. So I really wanted a winch. It's better to just have it and not need it. And the winch I did is a Warn Evo 9.5, I think it is. It's the only winch that would fit between the bumper, which is tucked in pretty far, and that intercooler. You have to remove the flaps for the intercooler anyways, even with the thicker CVF one already. So it's a close fit, but this winch actually did fit. Then as you will notice with other builds that I show on my channel, I always use the Agency 6 stuff. I color matched this custom colored it to the purple, which is a powder coat color. You'll see that's tied throughout the entire build. And then the hook is just the standard black. I just like a safe closed winch setup. You can put a soft shackle on this, and then it fits really nice and tight. So this is one thing you'll see on any build I probably ever do with a winch. I will include these. They're made in the USA, right in California. It's got all the information on here as to the strength, but it's very impressive specs. Now, you will also notice in the bumper, I've got a bunch of lights. These are all from Morimoto. These are my fog lights here. They're the DOT sort of SAE pattern, proper fog light, low and wide. For me, it's really nice to spot deer with them. I'm still on the factory headlights. In the factory headlights, the beam pattern is a bit narrow, so these just fill up the ditches and stuff very nicely. The bar I have from them, you don't see these around so much, but the cool thing is they're independent pods. This particular setup, these four are controlled by one switch, and then these two outer ones are controlled by another one. The way I have it set up right now, these four are white, and they're a driving pattern. They just throw the light out there. The edge ones are actually amber. I guess I could have turned them on, and they're right now a fog pattern as well. So I have just kind of the fog lights I drive around with normally, especially if there's snow and stuff. And then these ones, if it's really foggy or really snowy, I will sometimes use those ones as well, just for the amber. So I think that pretty much takes care of the front end. The bumper does include this skid plate here, and then we'll get to some more skid plates. You see these resis hanging out. We'll get to the suspension in just a second here. But you'll see I have A-arm or lower control arm, however you want to say it, skid plates. These ones are from RCI. They're aluminum. I feel like they tie in really nicely with the overall color, keeping it silver. That's why I went with the aluminum. Now, the suspension is going to be a little tougher to see, but we'll come around to the side. You'll see the resi most of all. These are from Elka suspension. You'll probably know from other builds that I really like Elka suspension because they're made here in Canada, and they use coatings that actually last in winter and with salt. So for me, that's a huge deal because I've tried tons of different suspensions, especially over the years on the FJ, and a lot of them, the springs will start to rust or things will give out. These, they do have some wearable parts, so like any higher end coilover, you might have to do some maintenance, but they've already been through one winter and they're looking really good. I got some upper control arms as well. These ones are Icon upper control arms. And the reason I went with these was sort of twofold. They have the Delta joint, which is somewhat sealed. I would have maybe done Dobinson arms, but there were none available, at least at the time I got them. I still don't think they're available. They're billet ones. These do have some adjustment built into the Heims. And then just the overall look, once again, they kind of are the same shade that the factory upper control arms were. So they match the lowers, they match those lower skid plates quite nicely. And then the Elkas, just to give a few more details, they're the 2.5 inch, so that's the diameter. So they're a nice thick shock. And then I have the resis with the DSC adjusters. So I like my suspension for the most part tuned fairly soft. But the nice thing is you can crank them up if you want to when you're off-road and making big hits. Now, if we move back just a touch, there are not many flares on the market that I like, so I've for now kept the factory ones. I do have a bit of poke past them, but they're just clean. They're easy to replace. They're not easy to clean, but they do, but they look clean. They tend to get mud staining, but they're just like overall a nice look. And if you ever hit them, the plastic clips break before your fender does. So that's also another asset. I don't think I hit them at all, but if you did, they'll pop off. You'll see in my first Bronco video ever, before I had my Up Travel Limited, which I will mention that Elka suspension is actually made for 37s. So you will hit your bump zone before you actually crush your fenders. So that's very nice. You'll see on that early video that I actually came up and hit the fenders, not very hard, so it didn't damage the fender, but it did pop off the flare. So I've just liked keeping that plastic aspect. Some of the aftermarket ones and carbon ones you actually bolt on, and then it's just a lot more rigid. So that design from the factory is nice. Now you can't help but notice these absolutely giant tires. These are 37 by 13.5 R17 Cooper STT Pros. Now I like this tire. This is obviously not a tire review, but I'll just quickly mention it. It's the epitome of a mud tire. It does everything you expect it to do well and does everything you expect to do poorly. So yes, they're loud. Yes, they're a bit rough. Yes, they wear a little faster than some tires, but once you get them off-road, they dig super well. These aggressive side biters on the sidewall, they are actually fantastic. I've tried a few different mud tires, and these ones just grab better than any of the other ones, like getting out of muddy ruts and stuff like that. So I probably will end up running, at least during the winter, a set of Baja Boss ATs on this. We'll see. They'll be quieter. They'll be nicer on road, so there's a chance even for longer trips or long highway hauls. I'll just put those on as well. So the Bronco might end up actually having two sets, sort of a summer and winter setup, but some of it also might depend. Yeah, you know, if I'm doing a long trip, if I go down to the States or somewhere across Canada, I might just throw the Baja Boss on. Now, also you will see the wheels, and they will almost look color matched, probably even on the video. They're not quite color matched, but it's pretty darn close. When I got these Falcon wheels, I decided to take a chance because I had seen photos of the gunmetal color, It's just a standard color from them, and I was like, that looks pretty close to the carbonized gray paint that I have. I was like, it's kind of gray with a bit of a blue flake to it, which is what the paint has. And sure enough, very, very close match. Now this wheel, there's two different cap options. There's one that you'll probably see that sticks out a bit more, and I had asked, I was like, can I get those flush caps? And I really like how it just gives it a little bit more of a concave look to the wheel. These wheels are 17x9 and only a -12 offset, and you'll probably look at my Bronco and be like, wow, you've got a lot of poke for only -12 offset. From Born Off-Road, I got some 1-inch hub-centric wheel spacers. If you install a wheel spacer correctly and just make sure it's torqued, you will never have any issues with it. It's like running a wheel with more offset. So people will scare you, but if you get a quality hub-centric spacer and you install it properly and maintain it properly, there is no worries. So that's my setup. You'll probably see photos if you go on my Instagram of a different wheel setup I had before. I did run real beadlocks before. These ones are fakes. I don't truly wheel as hard as I used to. I didn't feel that I needed that extra rotating mass. So these ones just, they look really clean, but I still like that kind of lip look that the fake beadlocks give you. Now, if we continue on a bit, for fitment, we should talk about that for a second. This was a Sasquatch package, essentially. It came on that factory, the Haas 3.0 Fox suspension, but same height and same everything as a Sasquatch package. So I didn't have the crash bars on mine, like the bolt-in ones from the factory. And my last setup was even wider than this one. So what I had to do, I got some help from my buddy JT, who some of you will know, to actually cut the factory fenders back to this pinch weld bolt. It's very hard to tell because it's been cleanly done unless you know where this bolt is. Once you figure out where that front bolt is, you'll realize about this much got trimmed off. So we just slightly trimmed the flare, came the whole way down, and then tucked the liner back, pulled the plastic panels out from the wheel wells, and it got enough clearance that I can go full stuff, full turn with these big, huge 37s and not rub. And because I run so much offset, I did not have to actually delete the crash bar mounts. Most people have to when they run 37s, but because of the width of my setup, I actually don't touch these. So that's been sort of nice. Now, because we were pointing out the pinch welds, you'll wonder what covers these are potentially. These are RCI ones, but they did get cut as mentioned just to match up. And that's actually the same case with these sliders. These rock sliders are RCI ones that also got cut to match here because normally they would stick this much further in. And with this setup, I would maybe clear, but with my last setup, I for sure didn't. So at that point, just to be safe, just trimmed them down, got them capped, and re-powder coated them. Now you'll see I'm running a two-tone powder coat. I don't know what the lighting will be like, but black on the outside and then the top trim plates, which are removable on these RCI sliders, I just did in the purple. It ties in, again, with all the other accents around the Bronco. Now, one thing that I forgot to mention is that the entire body of the Bronco is wrapped in paint protection film. So there's a lower sacrificial layer actually on top of the main paint protection film because Broncos are known for throwing rocks and most of it happens on the rocker panel. So this is 2 layers deep, and then up here on the doors and the whole rest of the body is just 1 layer. Broncos are notorious for their thin paint and it likes to chip. So I just right away was like, it's gonna get off-roaded, I'm gonna camp in it. If I don't wrap it, then it's gonna get probably chipped and scratched. I will also mention I did add the OEM Bronco scripts on here. I had aftermarket ones, and then somebody had these ones for sale. They're a little smaller, they just look really nice, and the other ones were starting to lift, so I swapped those out. Now, the one that will be hard to see is all the skid plates underneath. I have various skid plates from RCI. I've got a gas tank skid plate, a transmission skid plate, a few different ones here. So you'll just have to imagine what those look like because I don't have a hoist right now, so it's kind of hard to pop it up and take a look at each individual skid plate. But we will go down and look at just the easiest ones to see on this side. So from RCI, as I mentioned, I've got their gas tank skid plate. I did have an ask for aluminum one because the Wild Track does not come with a factory skid plate. So I did an aluminum one first, and I absolutely crunched the crap out of that off-road. So I went steel this time with the RCI. So hopefully the powder coat holds up well and it doesn't rust too much. And then the links, I wanted to make sure that I didn't crush the links on the Bronco at all. I don't have the reinforced ones like I think it's the Badlands gets. So these are from Barnes 4-wheel drive. These just link mount skid plates. I've taken a hit on one of them. I think it's the other side, and so far they've held up really well. So if you're thinking of doing any rock crawling, really, these could be worth doing if you don't have those stronger link mounts from the factory. And then coming to the back, wheels and tires are obviously the same. Elka suspension in the back. The thing I will say is factory Broncos are tuned very soft in the back. I think it's straight across the lineup. Even BRaptors, Bronco Raptors, if you see them towing at all or anything, they squat out right away. Now the thing is it keeps it really soft, so it sort of matches that independent front suspension better. But if you put a little trailer, if you put a fully loaded bike rack or something, it'll tend to squat really easily. Now, these Elka springs are the standard ones. They have heavy duty ones. I just went with the standard ones, and they're strong enough that even with a little cargo trailer or bike rack or the dog in the back or anything, they don't squat very much. And even with a fully loaded trailer, it squatted a lot less than I expected. So the benefit is it's more usable that way. The downside is it is a little stiffer than the factory setup, but for me, that's been a trade-off that's been worth it. Now, I was going to include these as an interior mod, but you can see them from the outside, so I'm just going to quickly mention the Molly panels. They're kind of hard to miss. Once again, in purple. It's Illusion Berry is the color from Prismatic Powder Coats. It was just a really nice color because when the sun hits it, it just lights right up. So these, I will just actually, if I can quickly show, I can grab the Molly panel and shake the entire Bronco. I don't know if these are the strongest mounted Molly panels there are on the market, but they mount in 4 different spots. They are incredibly strong, so I don't know why you would ever have to rock your Bronco from the Molly panel, but they can take them. They're aluminum though, so nice and lightweight. And then you will see right now they're tied down with these. I just actually a few days ago got these. They're from Roxworks, and they are replacements for just the bolts for the hardtop. These just make it much easier to undo and redo up. And when that top is on, as you can imagine with the Molly panel here, you have to reach your arm around the roll bar to get to them. And so with the wrench, it's tough. You're trying to get the one hand in there. But now that I have these, I'll be able to just reach in and easily undo them and then do them back up once the top's on. I do have a fire extinguisher up here. A lot of people ask about that. It's honestly, there's pre-threaded holes in the roll bar, and this is just put on with some kind of quick fist clamps. I've now, since purchasing it, I've heard mixed reviews on these Element fire extinguishers. So I'm just gonna put that out there as a disclaimer. They may work well, they may not work well. I've heard from both sides. For me, it's really a just in case. So hopefully it works if I do end up needing it. And some people complain that it's all the way at the back, but again, I'm not expecting this to catch on fire or anything I'm using to catch on fire. So I just put it in the most convenient spot for me. Now, mud flaps. These are from truck hardware. They're called the Gator back flaps. I believe you can actually buy them from Ford. At least in the States, I believe Ford sells these directly. The nice thing about them, and I maybe should have kept this clean. I don't know if this is going to pop out right now. I might need a screwdriver. But what you can do is take this whole lower part and slide it out. So it just leaves this top part. So when you're off-road, instead of hitting your flap all the time, you'll just pull that part out. And yeah, I think I got a bunch of dirt in here, so it's not going to just nicely pop for the video. So maybe I'll leave that. Factory tow hook, I actually moved it to this side. I'll show you in a second why. Once again, done in purple, just for the heck of it. I won't actually really use this for recovery because I always use a hitch mounted one. I just like having the center point for pulling, but I guess if I ever needed it, I have a second tow hook here. Now, the Wild Track came with black accents, gloss ones from the factory, so this horse is that's factory black. Tail lights, these are from Morimoto. They're the smoked model, and I think it just ties in. Right now it's not off, but it's pretty much gray when it is turned off, and it just matches with the paint really well. It also has just like a cooler looking turn signal. I like the look of it. It's also lower profile. That took a bit to get used to because the factory one stuck out quite a bit more. At first it felt weird having them short, but now when I see a Bronco with the factory taillights, I'm like, wow, those stick out a lot. So styling wise, I really like these. Function wise, I mean, it's mostly aesthetic, but they are really bright. I will show you the other thing that ties to them on the other side in a second. But first, hammer-built reinforcement plate. This was just because I didn't want the tailgate to crinkle. I knew I had a lot of weight. The last setup was even heavier, and so I just didn't want to have the kind of sheet metal fold that some people have gotten on their Broncos. So if you're going to run a heavy setup, I would recommend either reinforcement plate or there's ones that replace the whole hinges. That's probably even better, but I already did this, and so far it's working well. I will say I did get some noise from my tailgate when I put the 37s on, and I was really worried it was driving me nuts. I was like, how could I fix this? There was a TSB for the earlier years, but this is a 2023, and there was no longer a TSB. So I was like, what can I do? I might end up actually doing a video on this, but basically you have to grease the weather stripping and then get some grease inside the tailgate on the back of the hinge bolts and spray that all down, and all of my noises went away. So now the Bronco tailgate is silent. So it's not necessarily, if you're having issues, it's not related to the plate or whatever reinforcement you use. It's actually completely separate, and you'll have to fix it in a different way. I've heard some people who replace the whole hinges. That fixes it as well, which would make sense because you're spraying the back of the hinges inside the tailgate to fix it. Once again, Falcon wheel on the back. The nice thing is even this big fat 37 fit. I did have to, with that hammer-built reinforcement, raise the third brake light. So the nice thing is it's very visible. I know some people have kind of just left it tucked behind, but I wanted that nice and visible. And then behind the spare, I think it's Energy Suspension Jeep bump stops for the spare tire. I just got them off Amazon. I cut off the mounts, drilled a hole through, and was able to put the push pins from the factory ones, and then I cut them to the length I needed and put them on the door. So if you're looking for a way to even support your big tire even more, I'd recommend just figuring out some sort of setup like that. I don't know if you're going to be able to see them, but they're just tucked in there. The factory ones are pretty small, but these ones are a lot fatter, and you can just cut it to fit so that it just squishes nicely. Now, I will also show, I got an emblem made here from a company. It took forever, so I'm not going to shout out the name just because I can't necessarily recommend it because it might take you forever to receive it. But it looks pretty cool. If I was to do it again, I'd probably just get a paint matched one off Etsy that fits a bit more flush. This is an overlay, and it was actually slightly big, but it covered the space that I needed to well. And it's actually purple when the sun hits it. Sort of matches the powder coat, which is pretty cool. Now, the thing that I will mention before I go more to the interior side of things is the Morimoto taillights. You can get what's called a boost bar. Now, a lot of people tie it above their license plate, but I have a custom license plate frame, so I didn't really want to put the light there. So I actually have it tucked under here. It might be tough to see, but right along here is essentially a little light bar that's tied to the reverse lights. It throws out a lot of light, and it makes it so my backup light is very, very bright between the taillights and that. And I have tinted windows, so the nice thing is it just makes it possible for me to actually see even out of my mirrors at night. And then once again back here, Agency 6, I've got their shackle mount for the hitch. This is what I do my recoveries off of when I was saying I don't really recover off the tow hook itself. I like just pulling from the center, usually for most recoveries. And then here I have a custom built chase light mount with two little Morimoto one-banger lights here. So they're amber. They're a wide beam pattern, and you might ask, why would you want that? They're already really bright as is, and often around here we have a lot of like gravel roads, but sometimes you'll be like in the dust and then out of the dust and in the dust. So I just wanted a setup that was visible but not super, super blinding. So that's what I came up with. It works great. They're super bright, and the amber light just lets everybody know. I know chase lights traditionally are meant to be mounted higher, but just this way, you know, even if I had the roof off or something else, all the other options are mostly on the spare tire, or I've seen one on the roof. And for me, this works. For you, if you're in the desert or something, it might not. But for my uses, which is basically snow and then dust on the sort of fire roads, these work really, really well. So we will continue up. The back door, I have a couple things on here. This one is a little molly panel that I replaced the plastic panel with. I don't remember what company it is. It was actually one of my first modifications because what happened is something slid into the plastic piece that comes from the factory and broke it. So I got this. I did paint some of the plastic inside because it's white from the factory. So with the molly panel being open, it looked a little weird. You also get a bottle opener. So you have the factory one in the roll bar, and then you have another one here. So you got lots of bottle openers if you want it. Now, the table here you'll see is also color matched to that same purple. This is from Orange Box Fab. It's got some really great features to it. The only thing I will say is it does make noise. I added some rubber bumpers up here for the table to squish against, so that keeps a lot of the rattling at bay. But it's mounted on these little shackles. I added tape. So pretty much as quiet as I could make this table, I have. The actual quality for putting stuff on, it can hold a lot of weight. It's nice stainless steel for so my use is just like cooking when camping. I had a rear door table on the FJ, and then when I moved to the Bronco, I was like, crap, where do I put everything? I was camping, and my dog, her head gets to about here, so the little table I had, she was able to keep sniffing. She's pretty well behaved, so she stopped. But it's really nice just to be able to put your stove or anything that could be dangerous for kids or dogs up at a higher height. And so that's what this table allows for. So yeah, it took a while to come. They're expensive, but I mean, it's super durable. It's very strong. So it's up to you as to whether the noise is something you can live with. I got rid of most of it, so you could probably do the same. But it does look really good. And if for some reason you need another place to mount stuff, you've got another molly panel on the back. So that just sits there. I've got more molly panels than I have stuff to mount to them. The other one you'll see is I had a local guy quite a while back when I first got the Bronco build me a drawer system. It was just so that I could keep, my winch remote, some tools, some recovery gear, knives, radios, all that kind of stuff, just tucked in here, hidden out of the way. Otherwise, you've got stuff just bouncing around the back. So I just have certain tools that I keep with me every day and I just know are on hand. So that's what it's really handy for. The other thing is you'll see it's pretty skinny. What it does is it levels the back for a sleeping platform. When I first got the Bronco, I was like, oh, how bad can it be, this drop, for camping? It sits right on my hip bone, and I had a horrible night's sleep, even though I tried to stack some pillows and stuff. So I got this made pretty much right away after. So it works as like a good dog platform, sleeping platform, and it keeps all the little essentials hidden inside, which is nice. Just if somebody's looking in, especially when I have the roof off, it's really nice with the door shut. They can't get to this. I will mention a few more things underneath quickly. I don't even know if we'll be able to see them properly because it's sort of dark under here. I don't remember the brands, which is a little embarrassing, but I'm sure you'll find them if you look for them. I have a panhard correction kit, so it just keeps that track bar, panhard bar, whatever you want to call it, nice and level, because when you lift it, it'll be more angled, and it'll actually pull your axle to the side because it's, in a sense, not long enough. So if you just do that relocation bracket, which brings it up, that re-levels it, keeps the ride good and everything. You'll also see I've got some energy suspension bump stops there. You can extend them, which I guess I could do for the lift, but these are just, we'll see once I bottom this thing out hard. These should take away a lot of the blow. I had a set on the FJ for a while. They were really nice and soft. And then lower control arm, rear lower control arm, and shock skid plates. These ones are pretty cool. I don't remember the brand, which is too bad, but I'm sure you could find them. But I like how it protects both in one skid plate. It gives a really strong mounting point having both of them. I have smoked them a couple times because the shocks on these just hang pretty low, even with 37s. You can see there's a lot of rocks that'll be that height. So having a beefy skid plate there is nice as well. And then the last one, which is going to be kind of impossible to see, but you should have heard it at the beginning of the video, is I have a Miltech exhaust. It's got an axle dump. It's the one I got. They also have one that comes out to the side. This setup is about as loud as I would go on a Bronco. I actually had a different setup previously that was louder, and it just ended up being a bit too much. This is sort of my outer limit for noise, but it's really nice sound. Very different from the FJ setup that you'll hear here shortly again. This one has really a growl and a purr to it down low. It doesn't sound as nice when you open it up as maybe the FJ setup does with its equal length part, but this has a rumble that you can actually, like, you'll drive past somebody's house just like slowly and they'll kind of feel that rumble. So it's not a V8, but it really gets a depth to it that most V6 setups just can't. So overall, I'd say I'm a big fan of the exhaust. There are a few times where, you know, I feel like it's almost too loud, but on the highway, as I said, this sits around 2,000 RPM, even going the speed that I want to go. And so it settles the exhaust down. On the highway, it's not annoying. It's just around town, if you're running errands all day or something, sometimes you're like, oh, the exhaust is loud. Once the roof's off, it's kind of part of the experience. But it's not been loud enough to bother my dog Bailey. So that's been good. She still happily sleeps with the exhaust. So I would highly recommend the Miltech one. The one that exits out to the corner and doesn't dump would probably be a little quieter. So for me, maybe that would have been the perfect setup, but I'm a big fan of it overall. The only other thing I'll just show you here, or actually I guess there's two more things. One is for Speed Logics, I got a roll bar brace. And the reason for that was the Bronco Raptors come with a factory brace here. And so I looked it up, it was pretty expensive, and I thought, you know what, I could get their aluminum one from Speed Logics and powder coat it to match, and that would look pretty cool and do essentially the same thing. So that's what I did. It's purple, it looks neat. Now people have asked, did you notice a big difference? I did notice less flex in the hardtop because I used to get some creaking when flexing it out off-road. That went away with the brace. Other than that, I haven't noticed a huge difference, but I would imagine there has to be a reason why Ford put it on the Bronco Raptor. And I was like, if I'm going to be bombing along and doing a bunch of stuff too, it might not hurt to just reinforce that a bit and stiffen it up. You'll also see I've got an Agency 6 shovel in here. I love these little shovels just for camping. There's reasons why you might need a shovel, but these ones are just built really well, mounts up nicely to the molly panel. The molly panel was from Agency 6 as well, so the holes perfectly line up. If you have a different manufacturer for your molly panels, you might just need to drill holes through it in a different spot. You'll actually see the next build walk around I do, that's what I did to mount the shovel. I lined up one hole and then drilled the other hole just for the mount. But the mounts are delightful. Really, really well built, and you can just undo the shovel. I don't know if I can right now because I cranked it as tight as possible because I had the roof off and I just didn't want somebody walking away with my shovel. So I won't pull it off right now, but just know those sort of handles or knobs, normally you can just easily undo it and pull it off. So really, really well designed. Honestly, anything from Agency 6 I've run has been great, and the molly panels, the shovel, everything's worked together super well for this build. The nice thing is they have a Bronco themselves, actually the same color, really good looking Bronco. So it was cool because they started developing some more Bronco products than they have for some of the other vehicles. That's pretty much the outside. There's those few skid plates that we didn't see, but other than that, that's just about everything. I will mention, I did put a blind spot mirror on this side. This model does have the blind spot monitors, but I found that there's actually a dead spot beside the Bronco, and especially when you're towing a trailer, these actually help more than you would assume. So this is just a little stick-on blind spot mirror, but it's worked super, super well. The other thing I want to show you, I'll just move this bag here. You can kind of see them in the back too, but are these canvas back cargo liners. You'll probably remember from the LR3 video, I actually got the same pattern in it, this kind of gray camo. If you have a dog hair cleans up so much easier off of this than anything else. You know, they get dirty from camping and different things, but these just make it easier to clean. And then you protect that factory kind of more felt cloth on the back. So for me, it's mostly for just dog use and throwing firewood and stuff like that. Just easier to clean and keeps everything protected. They're made in the USA. They're hand stitched there. I can't say actually enough good about them. Most of my family's vehicles, we run them because for that very reason, just makes it easy to clean and protects everything. I will show you, maybe we'll do the front ones. Here's that throttle controller that I mentioned. I just mounted it here. That's the setting that I keep it in, is sand mode, the number 2. Funny enough, that's actually the same mode that I run the FJ1 on. Just in that one, I think it's cranked up to 3. All my lights are wired to the upfitter switches that were from the factory. And then you'll have to look across. I have Agency 6 grab handles and mounts in the Bronco here. That's mostly just for shorter people to get in. It just helps them have a second place to grab. And then those lights are from Maybet, I think is how it's pronounced. They're good when they work. There's just every now and then they will glitch and they either won't turn on with the other interior lights or they will stay on when the other interior lights turn off. If you toggle the switch a couple times, then they do respond to that and then they'll turn off or on. So that's been a little annoying. I'm not actually sure why they do that. Either I got a bum set, or I think I've seen other people complain about it, but I think it was earlier on. So maybe they've updated them, maybe mine are older. But from going from a vehicle that used to be like a cave, on the 2025 Broncos, they've actually added a second light on the roll bar. If you don't have that, if you have an earlier one like I do, it's pretty dark. You can't really see much. So these have changed that completely. It's just, yeah, every now and then, I think when I remote start it, that's when I have the most issue. The lights then don't want to turn off when I go to drive. But other than that, they've been fine. Just do know that if you go to buy this particular setup. Other than that, I don't think I've done too much. Usually with these videos, there's something that I forget, and afterwards I'm like, should I mention it or not? So maybe there is something else that I've forgotten on the build, but this, for me, this vehicle actually really does it all. It's my daily driver. I love camping and I like taking the dog. This has just enough room for me and the dog to camp comfortably in the back, hence that sleeping platform. I have a tent, a big round tent. I debated doing a roof rack and potentially having a rooftop tent that I could put on and off, but this thing's tall. I realized that I'm just gonna sleep in the back most of the time if it's just me. So this is really a do everything build. Daily driving, off-roading, camping. It's also a lot of fun. The roof is off right now, as you can see that. Let us just see the interior and everything a little bit better. With the roof off, it's a blast. Broncos, they're great in the winter. It's had its quirks, it's had its problems. It seems like they've fixed most of those with the 2025 update. So I would recommend a Bronco. Coming from the Toyota world, there were certain things that I'm like, it's not quite built as well. But I mean, that almost could be said for the new Toyotas as well. So overall, the Bronco's just great. I've built it how I wanted it. I ended up just waiting and being like, you know what, I just want to finish the build, which is essentially what I've done. There's not really anything else that I'm going to add to it. I was considering an intake just because it might add a little bit more power. But I haven't done that yet. Once again, I would do the one from CV Fabrication, just because then I'd have their charge pipes, their intercooler, and their intake, just have everything from the same company. Sometimes it works really well to just do that. Their parts have been fantastic. So yeah, if there's some companies that I'd say have just been great, the Elka suspension, you don't see it on too many builds yet, but it's really, really good. It's actually the basis for some of the other Bronco kits out there. So if you see some shocks that look similar, they're actually potentially Elkas. Just rebranded. Some might be rebranded and retuned, but the Bronco setup, because I got the adjusters, I can just tune it how I want. And that's honestly, that's how I like getting Elkas, is with those adjusters, because then I can fine tune the ride to what I like. So I've just, right now the settings I have, I don't even remember what they are, but they just drive really, really well. And then, yeah, this is a Wild Track. I'm really sad that Ford got rid of the Wild Track trim. I liked the gloss black sort of accents. It's got the hood decal. I know they replaced it with a different trim, but it's sort of sad that way. I actually like the two-tone interior. Some people don't like the tan. I quite like it. So overall, this has just been a great build. If I was to build another Bronco in the future, I'd probably go with a Bronco Raptor and then take that even to the next level. But this can't maybe quite match a Bronco Raptor suspension-wise, and it doesn't have quite all of the same settings. It does have Baja mode in some of those ones, which Baja mode is a blast off-road. But for how I use it, it is just really capable, and I think in some ways it does look better than a Raptor. I just like the more classic round flare look with the smaller fenders. But I mean, that's up to you as to which one you think looks better. But for me, looks-wise and capability-wise, it's incredibly capable. Front and rear lockers. I don't have the sway bar disconnect, which is okay. For the wheeling I do, I didn't feel I needed it. And at the time when I got this in 2023, this one had the beefier steering rack, the HD, the sort of shortened Raptor rack. And that's what I wanted. So when I got this in 2023, I went for that over the disconnecting sway bar. And currently I still don't really have any regrets with getting this model. So that is the entire Bronco walk around. If I happen to in the future do a bunch more stuff, we will do another one and update it. Like maybe I'll change some of the lighting out to different specs. But other than that, that's the build walk around. I hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you in the next video. The next video is actually going to probably go back to a Toyota walk-around video. It's not mine, it's a 4Runner, but I did help do the entire build for it. That one, I think, for the Toyota people, is going to be really exciting. And then I will just quickly mention the FJ is going to be back at some point. I'm going to show how it is now, because it's changed a lot since people have seen it last. And then I'm going to take probably about a month to make the final changes, because the FJ is going to kind of go to the next step, even from where it is. It's already on 37s and all kinds of stuff. But so for you Toyota people, you're probably like, oh yeah, Bronco build, that's cool. But once the Yoda stuff coming back, it will be very shortly. You'll see a 4Runner, and then you will see the FJ on the horizon. So I will see you in the next video.